Hi everyone, so now we're moving into derivations and I wanted to ease you into it by doing a couple of problems with you. Now there's already an answer sheet for this given by the publishers of this book, although the starter ones are not in that answer sheet. So I'll go ahead and do this one right now for you, and if you have any questions on the other ones, let me know. But in this first set of problems that I've assigned to you, essentially the proof is already complete. Everything's already done there for you. All you have to do really is supply the justifications. Now, the justifications go over here on this side, and they're actually, basically a documentation of what inferences you made from the premises down to the conclusion. For all derivations, typically the way you start is there is something to derive. In this case, it is tilde c. And, you just put that at the very bottom there, and you figure out how to go from the premises, that is these right here, down to the conclusion. So again, in this case, they've already given you the steps themselves. All you have to do is provide the documentation or the justification for that. So, okay, so where in the world would this A come from? Well, if I look here at my premises, I see that there is actually an A in both premise 1 and premise 2. But by this point, maybe one of the first things you should do is isolate the main operator of each of those sentences. So if the main operator in 1 is the horseshoe, well, all you can really do with that line is any horseshoe rules, horseshoe elimination or horseshoe introduction. Now, it's not clear why you would want to do horseshoe introduction. You already have a horseshoe in there. You want another one on there? I guess that's fine, but nothing about, you're trying to derive tilde c, nothing about adding a horseshoe would help you get to tilde c, right? So the idea here is you're looking at the main operators in these, try to figure out what you can do. So, okay, that's a horseshoe. For number 2, the main operator is the ampersand. That means it's a conjunction. So you can use any of the conjunction rules, conjunction introduction, conjunction elimination. So maybe that's how we got to step 3. So that makes sense. Conjunction elimination, one of the beautiful things about this rule is that it allows you to essentially break apart conjunctions. So A is clearly in 2, and now it's alone in 3. So one possible way to have gotten that is through 2 ampersand elimination or conjunction elimination. That makes sense, and it appears to be the only way to actually get line 3. Now in the future, you might see long, complicated derivations where there's actually multiple ways of going about getting the answer or developing the proof. In this case, there's really nothing else other than, there's basically only one rule that applies in each case. Okay. B and tilde C, where would you have gotten that from? Well, let me now remind you of this here conditional in premise 1. And let's kind of divide these into antecedent, and consequent. The antecedent will be in blue, and the consequent will be in green. So if we're working here with a conditional, you can clearly see that that conditional, the consequent of that conditional, appears again in line 4. In fact, that's the line we're trying to justify right now. So if you are working with a conditional, you can only really use conditional introduction or conditional elimination. And at this point, it's a good idea to kind of write down what they look like. Conditional introduction, by the way, just looks like this. Anywhere in a subderivation, if you want to assume some any sentence or compound whatsoever, P, and you can derive some Q, you can go ahead and end that subderivation, right? It's over, and you can put that on the main scope. Whoops, that should be a horseshoe. So that's horseshoe introduction. Horseshoe, or I keep calling it horseshoe, it should be conditional introduction. Conditional elimination is I guess, simpler in a way because there's no subderivations. Essentially, if you have anywhere in your proof some conditional, and you also have the antecedent by itself, feel free to derive the consequent by itself. So as long as you see the antecedent by itself and the conditional somewhere above the line you're working on, feel free to get that consequent. The way I like to think about it is that this here is your lock. So this whole thing right here is a lock. It's almost like the Q is, it's behind a door. It's trapped behind the horseshoe. So I call that your lock. So I don't know how to draw a lock. Maybe that's a lock right there. And I like to think of the antecedent as your key. If you were to only have that, you'd be able to unlock your prize. And that means that the consequent by itself is the prize. So if you want to, a nice analogy for using conditional elimination, think about it that way. You're looking for a lock, which is a conditional, hint, hint. The key, which is just the antecedent to the part to the left by itself, hint, hint. Let me do that in blue so you can really see the connection there. And then from there, you can derive the consequent by itself, hint, hint. So what's going on in line 4 is that we've derived the consequent of the conditional in line 1 using the rule called conditional elimination, lines 1 and 3. So just make sure you see that. The lock is right here. It is a, let's pretend that's actually a keyhole. It is a conditional. The key is the antecedent by itself, and then you get your prize. Yay. So that's what's going on in line 4. And then after that, it's old news. Where did you get tilde C from? Well, I see tilde C right here. It's part of a conjunction. It's just another conjunction elimination. Simple as that. So that is how you do number 1, and that's kind of the way I reason through it. Okay, so let's look at this bottom one here, C. So where should we begin? Let's go ahead and begin by making the observation that we're dealing with a, oops, let me get a pencil here, that we're dealing with a biconditional, we're dealing with a conditional, and with a conjunction. Conjunctions are always the easiest to work with. You can kind of break them apart pretty easily. Conditionals are, you work with them a lot, so you actually get used to them. But in a way, the biconditional, this one right here, is actually the easiest to work with because it works a lot like a conditional, except it works both ways. For the conditional, you definitely always need the antecedent by itself to get the consequent by itself. But when it comes to biconditionals, if you have this side by itself, you can get this side, or vice versa. Right? Either side works, so it's kind of very easy to work with. Okay, so let's see now what is being derived here. A. Well, where could it possibly come from other than line? Well, it does appear in basically every single line, right? But there's no way you can get it out of out of line 1 because it's stuck in it's a biconditional within a negation within a biconditional. I mean, that's so locked in there. There's no way you can get that in one move. How about the A in line 2? Well, that's part of a conditional, and there's actually no conditional rule that allows you to get the antecedent just like that. There is, if you look through there's not a single rule that allows you to just pop out the antecedent. There's the only thing you can get out of a condition is a consequent, typically, at least so far. So it only leaves us with line 3. By the way, A is in line 3 as well, and it's part of a conjunction, which means that must be it. It's 3 ampersand, conjunction elimination. Okay, where does line 5 come from? Well, I've already color-coded some things here. Let's look at this line right here, conditional. There's a lock right there. By the way, here's the key. We literally just pulled it out in line 4, which means now you can get your prize, which is the consequent. So this is once more a conditional elimination. This should be a bread and butter kind of move, by the way. You're going to use these a lot. and that's from lines 2 and 4. Okay, where does line 6 come from? Well, that's kind of an easy one. I see tilde D right above it. It's part of a conjunction. Conjunctions are easy to work with. You just break it apart. That's simply 5 conjunction elimination. Now, this one might be a tricky one for some people. Where does this come from? How did you get tilde C or tilde D, wedge tilde D? I mean, you see tilde D up here. Where do you see a tilde C anywhere? I mean, I guess it is up here, but that's way deep trapped inside a whole bunch of stuff. That's a disjunction trapped in a biconditional. So where did you get line 7 from? Well, there's actually a handy rule called disjunction introduction, where as long as you know one thing, you can basically throw a wedge on there and add whatever else you want. So make sure to take a look at that rule. I'm gonna go ahead and erase this real quick, even though that's probably the most useful drawing I've made so far. But conjunction introduction, I mean, as long as you have literally any sentence whatsoever, feel free to derive. I mean, basically just take that sentence again, add a wedge, and put next to it whatever you want. Q can be any truth functional compound. It could be a single letter. It could be a whole string of truth functional compounds, whatever. Or they can be switched, right? So it doesn't have to be pure Q, it can be Q or P. So that's what's going on down here in line 7. You went from tilde D to tilde D or tilde C. It's just line 6, and you made it into a disjunction. So that's all that's going on right there. 6, disjunction introduction. So if you want to go over that rule again, it's a good idea. It's kind of so obvious, it's not obvious, if that makes any sense. Okay. And now that we're finally approaching the last line here, let's erase some things up here to make it easier to see. Let's erase the whole thing. Why not? Now we see this big compound right here. Where in the world would we get that from? I actually see that compound already up here, and it is part of a biconditional. The nice thing about biconditionals is as long as you have one side of the biconditional by itself, you can get the other side for free. So actually, what I really wish I had right now is this part of the biconditional right here, the part in yellow. By the way, we have it. It's right there, right? So all we need for a biconditional elimination is right there. We need the biconditional itself, line 1, and then one of the sides, line 7. And that's how you get line 8, biconditional. Okay, so now I skipped over to the next section of problems, and it is from page 155, number 2E. So in this one, they're asking us now to derive a certain sentence of TL, H and tilde I. So I'm going to just run you by the way that I typically do this. I haven't even worked this out yet, so you will actually hear me as I do it. The first thing I do is I actually just go ahead and put the whatever I'm supposed to derive, the conclusion I sometimes call it, I put it right at the bottom. And I typically give myself a ton of space. I mean, at this point, maybe half a page. Later on with some of the problems, a whole page, because you can't be stingy about paper here. You're not going to get this immediately. It's going to take a couple of tries before you're able to really solve this. So give yourself plenty of space to make mistakes, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we're looking for an H and a tilde I. Now, when I see this immediately, I try to go for the easy solutions, right? So do I see this truth functional compound as it is right there? Do I see it anywhere already kind of complete? And the truth is, no, I see it in pieces, right? There's an H. Let me use in a different color here. There's an H over here. Maybe I should be neater here. There's a tilde I over here, part of a biconditional. So let's go ahead and make sure everyone knows that we're looking at a biconditional, a conjunction, and a conditional. Anyway, so there is no easy kind of, one-step solution. That's okay. It looks like we have all the parts that we need. Let's piece it together. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to just get these separately. So I'm going to go ahead and just write what I want. I essentially want an H and I want a tilde I, and then I'm going to put them together using ampersand introduction. Now, I don't know which actual lines it'll be in the end of it, but I know that once I get an H and once I have a tilde I, then I can just put them together through an ampersand introduction or a conjunction introduction. So I'm actually going to work from the bottom, and I typically like to work from the bottom a lot. I mean, a lot of people want to just kind of start deriving things and see if they can kind of brute force their way down to the solution. But, working from both sides of the derivation is extremely practical because sometimes you get stuck up here. So you want to work from the bottom as well. Okay. Well, how would I get an H? I actually see the H already right here. It's part of a conditional. Mind you, I have the lock and key analogy. If I had just the antecedent by itself, I can definitely get that consequent. By the way, I see the antecedent of line 2. I should probably put some numbers on this. I see it right there in line 1. That means as part of a conjunction, that's an easy grab. I'm going to go ahead and take that out right now because I know I can use it. So that would be, so these are all assumptions, right? So that would be line 1, conjunction elimination. And by the way, now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and take out the H right now because, it's in my head, right? So I'm using the conditional from line 2 and the antecedent, which is in line 4, conditional elimination, right? So just make sure you can see that. Let's use red again here. Here is your poorly drawn lock. Here is your key. That's a key. And here's your prize. So, all right, so we have H. Now, eventually, to make this proof, we're going to have to reiterate H down here since we still have to get the tilde I. Okay, how do we get a tilde I? Well, I do see tilde I over here, right? And it's part of a biconditional. The nice thing about biconditionals is if you get one side, you can get the other side. So essentially, if I can somehow get an H and not F, I can basically get that tilde I. I already have an H. I literally just derived it. So maybe we can get a tilde F. If I can just get a tilde F too, I can put them together with the H, put it together with the H, and then get the tilde I. By the way, I have a tilde F up here. So here's the next thing I'm going to do. Line 6, I'm going to just go ahead and break apart that conjunction again from line 1, and this time get the tilde F. That's an F, by the way. That looks worse now. Okay. And now that I have H and tilde F, and line 7, I'm going to go ahead and just smash them together. So that's line 5, 6, conjunction, introduction. And now that I have that, I can get the tilde I. And I'll show you here how I do so. So I'm using, first of all, this gigantic biconditional. I need one of the sides, it's right there, and I can get the other side. So what this is line 3 and 7, right? Biconditional elimination. Okay. So now that we've gotten all the pieces together, I have actually, this happens sometimes. I had already written these lines down here before I had figured out how I was going to get them. That's okay. Just kind of keep everything neat. You can just reiterate line 5 here. That way you don't have to cross anything out, So we're literally just moving the H down here. And the same thing with tilde I. just move it down here. That's a reiteration of 8. And so that last line, line 11, is just line 9 and 10, ampersand introduction. And that's how you do that one. Now, do you need 11 lines for this proof? No. I wanted to, show you how, if I'm being really, if I'm not sparing any ink, if I'm going to just throw everything, every single piece of my thought process on the screen, this is what it would roughly look like. Now, sometimes I kind of skip steps, and I know, for example, that I can get an H in line 5. By line 4, I already know that I can get an H, so I don't really get it until line 9. I kind of just skip line 5. That happens, and once you get really good at these, you can make your proofs nice and short and elegant. But in the beginning, don't be afraid to kind of just reiterate things and move things around, just to kind of help you see what you're working with. Break apart conjunctions just so that you can see the raw ingredients. There's many little, rules that you can apply, just kind of make it more visible what you're working with. So those are some tips for you to work on.